Welcome back to another painting session. Today I'll be teaching you all how to deal with neon activated spray paint. This is going to be a very quick lesson with all the tips and tricks you will ever need on making a basic planet with nothing but spray paint. But first I'll go with what you will need. First, you will need, of course, spray paint cans. Any color will do, any color palette that you would wish to put down into a painting. But for this particular video, I'll be using greens and yellows to make an acidic theme. And for a neon paint, you will also need a neon activated spray paint. You can see this by either the brand Krylon or Oleum, which is what I use here. I only have one bottle of Krylon, and it's this one right here, and it's neon. You know if it's neon if it says it right like there. Or if you have a black light flashlight or black light bar, which looks like one of these, lights up like that. Hold it up against one of the bottles, and you can see that it glows just like that. I'll be leaving this on here to use later, so you can see that when planted down, see, you can already see color as it is, but when exposed to the light, it glows a very vibrant green-yellow color. This is very good with making dynamic pieces that have little hints of things. If you wish to hide something inside a painting, neon paint is your go-to for doing that. That or glow in the dark. But unlike glow in the dark, you do not need to refresh or reload glow in the dark paint, or neon paint rather, onto a painting. Once there, it will stay there and be activated for as ever long that you need it to be. Glow in the dark is nifty as it is, but it can only be lasted for a very small amount of time, and then the paint dies out after a short while compared to neon paint. That's why I use it. I do have glow in the dark, and I do plan to make videos in the future, but neon paint is just my go-to as it's simply easier to use. Now, to start off, what I always do and what I always teach everyone is to start with layers. If you want to have a darker planet, well, regardless, always have a darker layer on the bottom. This will be your base. Because some people like to think that the newspaper or the texturing is what makes the planet. It is not. It is the layering. It does not matter what the texture looks like, but as long as the color palette and color texturing and layering is good. If the clouds look different from the bottom, if you plan to make clouds upon land or oceans inside of a planet, this is what you do. You need to make layers of these things. So I will have darker bits here to make shading it a bit easier and more realistic, and the light will be coming from the top left. So the lighter parts and lighter colors will be on that top left to reflect that. Now onto the yellows. This will be the second layer. You don't have to stop at the first layer, of course you can, but that will result in a fairly mild painting. But to truly elevate it, have as many layers as you can, but don't overdo it to the amount where the paint in painting is way too wet. Too wet there, you can't manipulate it unless it's looking like a wet slop. So now over this, I'm going to recoat with some very light greens, some spring green on the bottom there, and some lime greens on that top. Now I'm going to tint it all over with some ivory paint, which is just some very off-white. There we go. I've crippled this piece of newspaper here, like so, in linear scratches and folds. If I could unfold it, see, how it goes in one direction. That is because when I lay it down here and swipe it like this, it will go into a very fine orientation that will seem like it is rotating and have clouds going into one direction. And if your newspaper peels, that's alright. You could always remove it if it does not wish to be removed that easily, you could simply paint over it again. Use as many tries and takes as you wish. You don't have to make a painting on the first go. Mistakes can be made. Not everything has to be perfect after all. Alright, so now I'm going to have this flat stencil, which is of the same material as this paper right here, just cut into a perfect circle for the planet. I'm going to size it up, see if it's the right size where I need to place the tinting and the shading, and it'll be right here and there. So I'll put down the light stuff over there. Oh, and one thing I forgot to add, of course, neon. I will have this over like that. I will have other tutorials with neon, of course, which it could be much more dynamic, but I'm going to have it over like a filter, like this. I'm going to have it over so the entire thing glows. Of course, you can make it much more creative and dynamic by making only one layer neon activated, so only the clouds glow. This is what I usually do, but I'm going to reserve that for another lesson, so please stay tuned for something like that if you're interested. Of course, I make other tutorials very similar to this. If you're very interested in spray painting like this, please do give those a watch, as I think my insights are fairly good. Now I'm going to have some dark green for the shading here. Try to use a dark color that is within the parameters of the palette. Don't always try to do black, as that is most oftentimes very cruel and harsh on the colors you are working with. Sometimes, especially with spray paint, it will go way too far and make all of this much darker than it needs to be. Make them much more monochrome, make them much more like grays. With the dark green, it makes everything still green, as it is in the same spectrum of color as we see, but it will also blend better. It will make the greens into the greens much more seamless rather than it would be for blacks. So please make sure that if you are able to have the colors available to you, I know not everyone has as many spray paint colors as I do, or other people as much as me. So please just, if you're able to get the colors that matches your palette, please do so, as it will be good for the painting, trust me. Next up, I will now gloss the entire works. No, I'll wait for that, I'll wait. I can do this afterwards. The reason why I would do that, I'm going to talk to this a little bit, but you can skip if you would rather do that. Gloss paint allows this to look more lively. Actually, I'll do it just to show you. Make sure to shake it up well. Start from the top and slowly go down. It makes things so much more lively, makes the shading recess a tiny bit, and makes it pop a bit more. But this has the drawback of it takes a bit longer to dry. So you have to be a bit more patient when doing this, and of course you have to wait for the paint to dry. You can't just put the stencil on, because I would just peel everything like I did with a newspaper, and it wouldn't look quite right, and I wouldn't. Not only that, it would mess up the stencil over here to make it sticky, like these things here. If it's too bad, it could permanently damage the stencil, or I would have to remedy it by sanding it down to make it flat again. Or, alternatively, I could just wait, and that's what I'm going to do here. And in the meantime, I'm going to have some clips of some calming nature, maybe a minute or so, just for the paint to dry and for you to listen to some very calming and relaxing nature sounds from around here. Enjoy. And now we are back to the painting. Now, once your painting is all well and dry, make sure you feel all at the corners to make sure nothing is sticky, and your fingers glide very effortlessly across it, so you make sure that this definitely will not stick. Once you have assured that the paint will not stick, place down your flat stencil or bowl or whatever you have. And especially for a flat stencil, this is what I'm using right now. Use light weights on the sides to hold it in place. Always use light weights like this, lest you risk the stencil sticking to the paint. So let's say I put these two heavy things on here for an extended amount of time. Say the time it would take for me to paint around it, chances are that the stencil will most definitely stick to the paint. That is because it is having added pressure that is way too much for this paper to hold without sticking. So once you have this line of weights there, it doesn't have to be like mine, it could just be like nuts and bolts. Feel around, press down to test if there's any lifting points, any folds, any curves that will impede, that will allow outside paint to seep in. That's why this is there, so the paint for the space will not seep into the planet, so the seam is nice and sharp. Once you have assured that nothing will move, now it is time to make the space. Try to make a dark space around this for good contrast, but also, just like the planet, make sure that it is well and varied in color. Not as much diversity in the layering of the planet, but enough to have its own feel outside. So I have this set green here. I'll now get some other greens. I also do have to get another green that I did not get. Oh, clumsy on me. I'll go get that in a second. It will not take long at all. See, now I'm back. This is a much darker shade of green I will use for the outside, like this. It's also a flatter color. Now there is a good difference between gloss, matte, and satin. I prefer to use gloss because they meld well with other paints. They have good blending capabilities, and they look a bit sharper than the normal satin stuff. But the satin stuff still has its uses. And sometimes that's the only stuff you can get. So, of course, I'll take what I can get. If there's a color that only comes in satin that I really do need, I'll take that just as well. Just like this Hunt Club green. That is the dark green right there. I also use that for shading for the very, very dark greens. Now I'm going to have some green over here, because the light will be coming here. The majority of the lighter greens will be over there. Now, some very bright greens for the highlights here. Gonna make some nebulous gas in the distance. Get closer to make it a bit sharper, like I'm doing right now. I'll have one more right there and there. I'll blend it over, and that should be good enough. Yep, that seems about good. Alright, next is placing or flickering those stars down. And to do this, always make sure either you use your left or right hand, doesn't matter, you have a glove on that hand. Trust me, you do not want to clean paint, whatever paint, especially spray paint, off of your hands and fingers. It is very difficult, not difficult, but it's very time consuming to do. It's very sticky, and so it can get to other fingers in other places like doorknobs or faucets very easily. So it's just much better to have prevention matters like this than to deal with it afterwards. So place it on whatever finger is strongest. Make a few pre-flicks and then flick down onto your canvas however well you like. You may take a few times, that's fine. Just make sure that you don't make any globs in the process. The reason why I pre-flick, I flick on like a piece of cardboard before I flick on the painting, is to make sure that I do not have those heavy globs. To make sure that all the heavy paint is out of the way, then I can make the smaller, more defined stars. If you're not careful, making globs of stars could be the make or break of your painting. Okay, I think that's all about good. I'll turn on the black light to let you all see what they truly look like. See? I'm pretty sure it shows up on camera. It's time to take this glove off. Make sure that to take it off, you take the ends here and then you peel off. Very simple, so you do not have to touch any of the paint. Next up, this is nearing the end of the lesson. Now, if you have enjoyed today's lesson, then do please like the video. If you have liked it, comment if you have any questions or concerns, or if you simply had enjoyed today's painting session, or you could ultimately subscribe to my channel if you like what I do, spray painting content. Either that be full-length videos or lessons like this one you're watching right now. So, to finish this off, before the final touches, I will add the comments. How I do this is I take a piece of paper, again, same as this one, just like the stencil here, and I fold it like this. The gimmick with this piece of paper, in particular, is half of the crease is heavily creased, very sharp, and the other is rounded. This will act as a net. You will spray on the rounded side. When you spray this, then the mist have no other choice to either go up or down. Let's make this a triangle pattern. But when it goes down, then it will have to go through this comet shape, just like this. See? Of course, it doesn't show that much because it's, of course, neon paint. But if you look closely, if I show it here, very sharp. And make sure, after a few spritzes here, you swipe up to clean and make sure that no paint drips down. That will again make or break your painting. You do not want any globs there. Now you could get fairly close to the painting with the comet maker, which is what I have deemed this nifty little thing. But try not to get too close, as you don't want to directly touch the paint, especially it being wet as this is, because it will make a little scratch mark and that will again mess up the painting. So I think that's about it. I'll take away these weights. Try not to grab them too much because they will have paint on them. If you have gloves, then I would do this. Personally, I would rather you all use gloves the entirety of the painting process, but I think I'm fine. So now, the moment of truth, my favorite part, peeling the stencil. Oh man, this is not a good sign. Come on. Oh, it's not that bad. It just, the little lift that I had here kind of tore off. Tape wasn't that good. And there's only a few sticking marks, the little peeling part, and this is, you know, just to teach you all not to do my mistakes. Just wait a bit longer, maybe not use as much gloss as I did, because it stuck a tiny bit here. Not as much of an issue, but still there. Now I'm going to, I'll show the black light first. See? Very, very bright. And the seams around this planet is very sharp, just like I would like it. Top to bottom, very good. You don't have to have this neon bar. You could just have a normal pet urine finder that is also a black light. Anything that is a UV light, black light, they are the same thing. They will find the neon paints here. Now I will have the last coat of gloss here placed down here. Just have quick motions, left to right, then end off on the bottom right, which is where I will put my signature, which is the last step for all of this. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, now I'll have a close-up of all of this. And here is the finished product. I hope that all of you have enjoyed today's painting session. And like I said before, if you have any compliments or criticisms of this painting or any questions, please go to the comment section and ask away. I'll be more than happy to respond to you. If you have liked the video, like the video of course. If you like what I do, spray painting videos, either that be full-length detailed paintings or lessons like you're watching right now, I would please recommend that you subscribe to the channel to be up to date on all of my lessons, creations, or projects in the future, past, or present. Of course, I could also show you all the other tutorials I have done in the past, things I have not gone into this video. That I do plan to in the future more in depth, but those tutorials that I've made in the past, I will have them in the cards above for you all to go through. Not all of them, but a select amount that I think is relevant to this one. And if you want to see more, of course, just watch those videos or just subscribe to the channel and be notified in any new ones later on. Again, I hope that all of you have enjoyed today's painting session. Until next time, I hope that all of you have a great day. Bye-bye.